Moxley made his return to AEW. Come on, Moxley.
I have immediate problems.
What's that?
Because we did at our live, I think it may have been Crown Jewel, if not Money in the Bank, watch along. We did a game wherein we had to sing along to a theme with some words.
Yes.
And I did that for Jon Moxley's theme, and you said that sounds nothing like Jon Moxley's theme, and it sounded exactly like what you just did. So you knew you were just making me prat around in front of everybody. And I feel somewhat betrayed.
Well, I would never do such a thing. Anyway, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of AEW Collision. I'm Luke, I'm in DAD. I'm joined by your soon-to-be former Jam That Champion, the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton. Welcome. Please do press the thumbs up button. Give us a subscribe if this is your first time here and you enjoy this sort of inane waffle. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Collision. If you're watching live, let me know how excited you are about TNA and how great I am at singing. And get in your Omega chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them of the $5 amount.
What a week for TNA it's been.
What a week for TNA.
Huge.
I'm sure there will be some chat on that a bit later on. Mostly people just seem to be enjoying my Mr. Rogers look that I currently have
I said this
on.
when I came in. You're looking very dadly today.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty dadly today.
So because I'm not feeling very pretty. So like between us, at least one of us is I've eaten really badly over the past couple of weeks. I discovered French tacos, or rather rediscovered French tacos, and we had some yesterday. They're so good, Luke.
Well, I was looking at my wardrobe this morning, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to wear. It's cold now.
So we're into sweater season.
It's jumper season, and then I thought, maybe I'll wear a little shirt underneath it. So
it's handsome.
Oh,
it's comely.
Much. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm a warm, welcoming hug through a YouTube video. So.
And I'm a cold, miserable rock face. So,
however, we are going to have a lot of fun today because this was a very good edition of AEW Collision that I thought had a really good through line of an episode, which was the House of Black coming back. So it started in the opening match with Andrade and Danielson. After the match, Malachi Black, lights went down, lights came up. Malachi Black gave Danielson the black mass. Lights went out. Claudio and Yuta came down to make the save, and he disappeared. Later on in the show, lights went down, the third time it actually happened on the show, and lights came back up, and all of the House of Black attacked FTR. And then lights go out, they disappear. In the main event, they stopped the BCC from winning. It looked like Claudio and Yuta were about to have the match won when they didn't do a lights out this time. They just ran down from the back and attacked them, and it led to Ricky hitting the Rochambeau on Yuta to get the pinfall. And then they, along with Ricky and Big Bill, beat down Blackpool Combat Club. FTR ran down to make the save, as did Danielson, until Jon Moxley made his big return to AEW after being advertised 2 weeks ago, and he's back on the show.
Yeah, it was a fun little return because I thought I'm with you. The story throughout was really intriguing to me. I quite enjoyed it very much. It kind of put me in mind of Attitude Era stuff where there was that kind of through line of we're coming to take you down. And actually the whole show felt in different places, like place setting and putting things out and developing certain storylines. We'll get into it, but the Guns having a kind of a squash match set them back up, all that stuff. There was a lot of that going on.
Enjoyed the Miro stuff. With
CJ.
Exactly.
So to have this through line right through the show was quite nice. When it came to the brawl, knowing we were leading into Battle of the Belts, I wondered whether or not this was going to be a brawl that would stay tuned, we're not going in, we'll be right back after these messages with Battle of the Belts, and that would continue. But it didn't feel like a hot kind of brawl that would take you off air until Moxie's music hit and everyone kind of got on their feet, and it was like, oh, lovely. This is the final ingredient that's made this tableau sing a little bit. Yeah,
because I wouldn't say that this was a quiet crowd. I would say that this was a small crowd.
It was a small crowd,
which is what it was.
Yeah.
And they weren't hot for a lot of the action, but they did very much pop for Moxley's return.
Yeah,
and the ensuing brawl. And actually, I really did like how they moved into Battle of the Belts afterwards, because it was Claudio giving Ricky the swing. That's how Collision went off the air. And Battle of the Belts started with Ricky still in the swing.
That's hilarious.
And then actually what I really loved is that after all of that, Moxley gets out of the ring because Orange Cassidy's making his entrance for his International Championship match. They bump shoulders and almost get into a brawl as well. And we were talking about this on the Dynamite show about MJF being involved in like 6 different storylines of 6 different people coming for his belt. I like it when there are like different stories that are crossing over with one another. This is a story of House of Black targeting the Blackpool Combat Club, and FTR have managed to get themselves into that as well, while at the same time Moxley has his issues with Orange Cassidy, who himself is going through this almost like Gollum-like change since he's won back the title. And all of this makes it feel like an intertwined universe, the excitement of it all. And I think the ending of Collision kind of brought a lot of that back, because there are times where Collision is just, it's the wrestling show. And we got a lot of that on this show. The opening match was great. The closing match was great. I really loved the Miro match as well. And then the squash matches. But it's nice when you have, it's not just the wrestling show, and here's some cool storyline stuff as well that's going to further and feed into Dynamite.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I've always liked the interconnected thing. I mean, we had it in various different places, not even in these storylines. Ruby Soho during her promo, there was a crossover
with the JAS.
Exactly. Are we still calling them that? The FJAS.
I just called them the JAS in my notes because I don't know what to call them.
And when I've read a bunch of other people's reviews as well, and they're all calling them the former JAS. So it's like we needed a name for this collective of people.
For Jazz.
So until then, they're Jazz. But there was the connection there as well. So there's a lot, and Statlander and Cassidy both having an interview at the same time. I like an interconnected little universe. I like that they all work together, so they've all got similar interests.
I always like the House of Black. I think they're a really cool faction. They look amazing, and it's now interesting because had the rise of Julia Hart over the last couple of months. Obviously, she's not been on TV because she's on her honeymoon currently. But at the same time, you've got the Skye Blue stuff and the Willow Nightingale stuff, which is feeding into the Statlander. So
there's still presence and stuff.
There's presence, but now that Malachi's back on TV, I'm looking forward to seeing like is Skye Blue actually going to be like join part of House of Black, or is it just the Mist is going to change her and she's just going to become her own individual character? What does this mean for Willow? And so all these sort of just questions and stuff. Someone pointed out, I don't know how much of this is, or it's just fan speculation, or it's just fan theorizing and things like that. Malachi's black eye was fine. He didn't have the black eye on this show, and he had his little contact in, but he didn't have any of the makeup around it, and so it's like it's because all of the blackness from the eye is on Skye Blue currently.
Oh, interesting.
And now I don't know how much of that is like intentional and stuff, but Malachi Black he's a lore man.
Yeah, he does like a bit of lore. He loves a bit of lore. I mean, he's carried it between companies.
He loves a bit of lore, and I could be like, oh, I could see that as a Malachi Black thing. But again, like that's also, part of the fun of being a wrestling fan, isn't it? It's like theorizing what storylines can mean and what they could be.
Yeah, completely. And having an idea of like, I mean, I'm a fan of lore as well, and I'm a fan of the sort of spookier elements to it. I'm always looking at gear, and I do unfortunately have a thing to say about gear later on. We'll save it all for one little bit, but I love all of that interconnected stuff. I love this. There was the other thing with Malachi Black in particular. I know our lead story is Mox, but the other thing with Black in particular,
he did return as well. Like the title of this episode is Jon Moxley bracket and the House of Black return.
At the beginning of the show, him popping up at the end, I actually had a lot to say about. We've talked about build, and I think a lot of the conversation about build got very confused around All In, because I think there was a misunderstanding of what sort of was meant by it. But Malachi Black's just popping up at the end of that match to set up a match with Bryan Danielson was a very effective example of a very effective build, which I'll talk about when we do that match. So then when it turned out that it wasn't just popping up to set up a little match with him, it actually was the beginning of like a storyline that we don't know where it's going to go.
Action warfare.
That time. It's brand supremacy. Collision versus Dynamite.
We did see that on the old... was it on Raw?
On SmackDown.
It was on SmackDown, wasn't
Nicole
it?
Had Adam Pearce ejected from the arena.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no! Oh, we're leading to a Raw versus SmackDown match.
And Collision versus Dynamite. It could be. You never know. But like, there was a lot of just positives that came out of not a lot of actual story. This was, like I said, it was a place setting show, and it made me excited for like what could come, because I love all of the House of Black.
I think we could probably look at Full Gear now, and you'll have House of Black versus the Combat Club of Danielson, Claudio, and Yuta, and then Mox going after Cassidy's international title as a way to sort of, that's all plate spinning there. Maybe something around Sky Blue, I don't know. But I could certainly see them doing a trios match at Full Gear.
And if Mox's injury isn't like fully done yet, this is a great way of keeping him on screen. If you know, like,
because he's not wrestling this week. Like, it's another tag match, but it's not like with the Combat Club, but it's not Moxley. I think it's Danielson and Claudio.
He doesn't have to wrestle for 2-3 weeks, really doesn't have to wrestle till Full Gear if you don't want him to. You can still build to him being involved in a match. If he's present and he's part of a scrap and it's more like a punchy rather than an actual match,
taking bumps.
Yeah, you can use him. Like, I mean, they did that with Austin back in the day. Like, he had a broken neck, but you'd never know it because he was always on screen.
Just so everyone's aware as well, that at Battle of the Bells, during Battle of the Bells, they announced that on Dynamite this week, may I add, it is Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli versus Orange Cassidy and Kazuchika Okada.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't see this.
Did you not see this?
No.
Okada's on Dynamite this week, tagging with Cassidy.
Okay.
I know, right? Like, this is...
Just gonna drop that one in there for you, I guess. Why not? Is that Tony Khan's special gift to Sting?
Yeah. No, his special gift to Sting is that TNA is back, and I've bought it. I just like out of nowhere they were just like, yeah, Okada's on Dynamite. I was like, all right,
okay,
cool,
sure.
I'll go for that. They're part. Cassidy's part of the same faction. Yeah, they're all part of Chaos.
Oh, okay.
That was sort of during the pandemic era of because they were doing stuff with Ishii and I think because like Trent is part of Chaos, so by extensions the Best Friends sort of became part of Chaos as well, and that also meant that Trent's mum Sue was technically part of Chaos because Ollie used to get really angry about the Best Friends being in Chaos and Sue being in Chaos. Because like, this was the group that Shinsuke Nakamura created.
Right, okay, gotcha,
She used to be a cool stable. And now it's just Okada, Ishii, and these guys.
Sue.
And Sue.
Hey, put some respect on the name of Sue.
Exactly, that's what I kept telling him. So yeah, Okada's on Dynamite this week. But on the Moxley thing, I could see us doing Moxley and Cassidy International Championship at Full Gear. I certainly replay back the great match they had it All Out,
and also like a kind of course correction in a way. And really, you can go one or two ways. Either that can be,
do we do the world title?
We all thought Punk
was going to come back and just win the title back off of Moxley. In the end, Moxley squashed him in like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Rocky 3 and all that.
Or you could just have like if Cassidy. I don't know. It's taking lemons and making lemonade. It's a cliche, but that's kind of what you have to do in this moment. And when you do, I feel like getting the belt back on. It's like in fantasy football, right? Here's my metaphor. You've made a mistake and you got to course correct it, but you can't do it immediately because you've got to do like I can only transfer you back in 3 weeks' time because I've got to find a way to reapportion the money. I can only make one transfer a week. The FPL people know. So like I've got to get the belt onto Cassidy. That means then I've got to get Mox back in this, and then I've got to bring them back there. By that point, you might go, actually, it makes more sense for like Cassidy to keep the belt rather than put it on Mox and let Mox go and do what Mox was going to do. Like, it's kind of rolling with the punches and seeing what goes down, and it feels like that's what they're doing, and I appreciate it.
Well, let's get into your Omega chats on this topic. WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount.
Stark remarks, surely.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the Stark remarks. I do apologize. And because we used to call them the No Mega chats. Yeah, Stark remarks.
Technically, they still are because I don't think I've seen Kenny on Collision, have I?
He is there in
spirit.
No, he's there. I think he's announced for next week or the week after.
How exciting!
Because MJF is also announced for that show. I think they'll probably do MJF Omega because that's just before MJF will beat his records as longest reigning champion.
Smart.
We have got 3 chats here that have all sort of a similar theme, so we'll talk about it as one big thing. But Kevin V here says, you forgot a return this weekend, TNA! And Brett J. Rasmus says, Collision was great fun. I loved all the returns of House of Black and Moxley. And Team TNA got a win. Speaking of TNA, how excited are you for TNA returning? Because, Luke, I am as excited as you are. What do you think of it happening? And EJO says, if Impact are rebranding to TNA, I propose that we rebrand Team TNA to The Carnival. Love your work. Jam, Das, Jam. Well, I mean, according to Jeff Jarrett, backstage they're called The Heat.
Are they really?
Yeah, it's like, well, there goes Heat. because they always take heat with them. And
they do. I wrote this down. I feel like, we're talking about Christian having the run of his career. I think Jarrett's having one as well.
Okay. I mean, we are going to be the only podcast on the planet. Actually, going in Raw did this, even though we are a better show than them.
Oh yeah, but invariably. They can't match it.
No, but like when I did check the Ultimate Machine, I don't try not to go on there too much, but man, people were so down on Jarrett beating Kingston, and I'm there going, tee. I think this is good.
I liked it.
I watched the match. I was like, tee. That was so much fun.
The match was nonsense.
But that's why it was so much fun, because it was rubbish.
Yeah.
But like it was so silly. But anyway,
they're not officially Team TNA either, are they? That's what we call them.
That's what we as the
we can carry on calling.
We in the
TNA.
WrestleTalk verse have rebranded them to Team TNA. But they're not officially called Team TNA. But anyway, let's talk about the whole like TNA as a whole. If you saw today's WrestleTalk news video, you saw me running down a street yelling TNA is back, and then overly chanting TNA and stuff. I'm excited. I think this is a good thing. I think people thought I was going to have a much bigger reaction to this because I was inundated with messages on Sunday.
Well, you have made it your whole brand, Luke.
Yeah, I get that. But like, fundamentally, I don't think much of the company's going to change. It's just the name is back. There are other things about TNA that I'm excited for than them just bringing back the 3 letters and admittedly the greatest wrestling logo that's ever existed.
I am impressed they haven't changed the logo.
Yeah, the logo is is incredible. And I think it's cool they're going back to TNA. I think it's a smart business choice going back to TNA because apparently they've been doing internal asking fans which name did you prefer, Impact? Because there's a really complicated reason as to why they're called Impact and not TNA. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of... And it's
what
cool.
is it?
Well, so basically what happened was there was a big legal battle, ownership custody, real life, not kayfabe version, between Dixie Carter and Billy Corgan. And then then Jeff Jarrett got involved because Jeff Jarrett had left and he'd started another company called Global Force Wrestling. And then he tried to get back into TNA to take over TNA again and merge TNA and Global Force Wrestling together. And because of all the stuff with Dixie and they were running out of money and Anthem eventually bought them, Anthem decided the name is poison.
Yeah.
No one associate anything good with TNA. So we rebrand and everyone will think we're a brand new thing, even though they've obviously referenced their 20-year history. So there's all this sort of stuff. So now going back to being the name of TNA, I think is a good, smart business move. Also, hey, nostalgia is a hell of a drug. Mm-hmm. I'm over nostalgia baiting. I'm sort of done with it now.
But that's your whole brand.
No, I like the 90s.
Right.
But I think the 90s is the greatest decade that Lifetime has ever produced.
Yeah.
I think really the world probably should have just stopped trying after the 90s because
I don't know, 2004, 2005. Actually, 2006 I think was the peak of culture.
We just peaked in the 90s.
Right.
Okay? As a society, as a culture, we peaked in the 90s. Mobile phones needed to be exactly where they were at the end of the 1990s. That's by the by. But I'm not going to be excited if you tell me that, we're doing a live action version of Gargoyles. That was a show that you liked as a kid. Or we're going to bring back this show. You liked that as a kid, right? Look, it's back. All the original stars back. That was exciting 5 years ago. But I think I'm a little bit past it now. On a personal level, I get why other people are excited. But I haven't watched the new Power Rangers thing that was on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch that.
Because it was yeah, I mean, I'll get around to it eventually, but if you'd have done this 5 years ago when nostalgia baiting was kind of a new thing, I kind of think I'd say 5 years ago, it's probably slightly longer than that, because I think it's Force Awakens era and Jurassic World era was when we were kind of in this whole the old stars are back. But it's a new story, kind of thing, right?
Well, it's interesting because, and I'm derailing us fully to go on a media studies conversation, but there was something about, especially, did you see the film Free Guy?
Yes.
There was something about Free Guy that was pitched very heavily as this is an original story, it's cool, it's whatever, and then it devolved by the end of the movie into just a IP dick measuring contest. It was look at all the things we own.
Yeah.
And that kind of is what. When you do see this Ready Player One crossover Space Jam, the new Space Jam, it really is just showing off we're a monopoly and we own everything. And that for me, it doesn't feel as fun because it doesn't feel character driven. It doesn't feel it doesn't understand. The new Frasier is excellent. And the new Frasier is excellent because it understands what Frasier was. Because it's, I haven't done enough to check whether it's the exact same team or whether it's just Kelsey, who's the follow-on, Kelsey Grammer. But the first episode of the new Frasier has the difficulty of a new sitcom in an age where we don't watch multi-camera sitcoms, where there's a laugh track and we're introducing new characters, and it does feel a bit weird, and there's an element of like sinking in. But there's a beautiful moment at the end of the episode where Frasier talks to his son about his late dad, who obviously was a massively important character, not just in the show but in Kelsey Grammer's real life. And they have a very serious and very heartfelt conversation, and it moved me to almost tears. And it was like, oh, you understand. You're still Frasier. You get it. That energy is still present. That's what nostalgia is. Like, if TNA are able to somehow take that kind of underground third-party thing that made TNA interesting at the beginning, before it all got a bit mental with your Bischoffs and Hogans and all that.
Yep. Who, did kill the company. And then Dixie and Billy Corgan had to try and scramble it to the point where...
this is why we got to...
Hogan and Bischoff killed it to a point where they had to rebrand it 6 years later.
Right. So if they can get back to the bit at the beginning there, I think if they announce they're going to do a King of the Mountain match, you'll probably...
I'll be very excited. I mean, they've done King of the Mountain matches. Like,
right.
They brought back the Reverse Battle Royal at Slammiversary last year. Like,
well, I mean, it's the Impact 1000. Like, that, it's kind of off the back of that.
I mean, I give huge credit to Scott D'Amore, by the way. Huge credit to Scott D'Amore and everyone that's working backstage at Impact, now back to being TNA. Because they really show that you can scratch and you can claw and you can get yourselves back. Because they are back. Like, Impact, the last year that Impact have had really has been like this underground whispered thing of like, have you heard that it's good again? It's like Super Eye Patch, Wolf's most recent video is The Simpsons is good again. Like, that's kind of what TNA has been. It's like, have you heard?
Yeah.
TNA's good again.
It's also like there's things that we'll talk about the women's division in Collision, because like, surprise, I've got stuff to say. But like that's when we talk about women's wrestling across the board, a lot of people say, oh, Impact have been doing a really good job with it.
And that's one of the things I think is one of their great strengths.
Yeah.
And like, when people say like, are you excited for TNA? It's like, no, there've been stuff I've been excited about TNA before they changed the name from Impact back to 3 letters.
Yeah.
I'm excited about Giselle Shaw. Yeah. I'm excited that Jordan Grace is there. I'm excited that Sunny Kiss has now joined the
It feels like a
roster.
very real possibility that Will Ospreay is going to...
That's exactly I was about to say. Like, Will Ospreay and Speedball Mike Bailey. It was so... Like, what was exciting for me over the weekend was people on Sunday being like, did you hear TNA had a Match of the Year contender? I haven't heard those words since 2007.
I think Mark Markuson might have said something about it a little while ago. Right?
But you know what I mean? Like, it's that thing. It's like, it's just these whispered things that are starting to like bubble up to the surface. Because even the one that Mark brought up was like, is what wrestling fans talking about. This was like, and even then it's that subset of wrestling fans. This was like everyone was talking about. Have you heard about the Will Ospreay Speedball Mike Bailey match? And that might be a show then, or do much better pay-per-view numbers afterwards, because people will buy the replay to see Ospreay versus Bailey, because it is incredible. It's such an incredible match. And it'll be like, I think it'll end up probably being on, top list of matches at the end of the year, because it was that good. That's the stuff I'm really excited about. I'm excited that they're doing work with What Culture, and with Simon Miller having a match with Joe Hendry. I'm excited they're doing work with Cultaholic, and like Tom's going to be doing a voice. Like, that's cool. Yeah. That's why I feel like Impact, and even before they did this whole TNA rebrand, they were feeling like a cool product again, because they're doing great numbers over here in the UK. They're doing really well in terms of the tour that they're going to be doing. This little mini Northeast/Scotland tour that they're doing. It's working. A
deprived region, by the way. Like, they have been. Yeah.
And like, I love that it's like a Joe Hendry tour. Like, it's Glasgow, it's Newcastle, and it's Coventry.
Yeah.
Like, it's Joe Hendry hotspots. And that's a really smart thing to do. That's the stuff that excites me about TNA. It's not just that they've changed the name back. There's been stuff way before the name change that I've been like, this is something to keep an eye out on. And like, watching Bound for Glory today, it just feels cool. It feels revitalized. What it feels a little bit like is, and this is going to sound like I'm damning it, and I am absolutely in no way damning it with my choice of words. This feels like seeing My Local Indie on TV, because it's slightly smaller things. The way crowds sounds like when I go to indie shows in London. Like, that's the sort of crowd. Like, when I went to go see Defy, like, that's the sort of crowd atmosphere I was hearing. And it was during the Chris Sabin-Kenta match. I was like, this crowd just sounds like indie crowds that I'm usually a part of. Like, I'm going to be part of one tomorrow night when I go see Riot Cabaret. And that to me is just like so exciting. And I'm thrilled that, it took them changing the name back to TNA, but people are talking about TNA again. So that's really exciting. That's what excites me.
And like to try and be a television professional and sort of almost pivot us back to Collision. That's what AEW had right at the beginning. That's what AEW always was that renegade sort of like underground.
Absolutely.
And it was so Scott D'Amore, who obviously was in TNA in the earliest days, so
way back when,
so knows to my Fraser parable, knows the energy.
He's the Kelsey Grammer.
He kind of gets it. It's this the thing about AEW right at the beginning was it had that Cody and Tony Khan veneration for wrestling, and especially for Jim Crockett kind of wrestling that brought that energy to AEW. And I think that's probably why people got so like. But I think about that first Double or Nothing when it was like, there was such an intrigue and such an excitement. So.
Here's the best thing I can say about the TNA rebranding in terms of how much of a game changer it is. And I don't think it's just the TNA rebranding. I actually do think it is the work that they've been doing for the last 4 years to get us back to where they are now, and how good of a show Bound for Glory was, not just off the back of Ospreay and Mike, but also like Saban and Shelley in the main event and this and the other, Jordan Grace, Giselle Shaw and this lot. Is 3 weeks ago, if we'd have put like a poll up of like, where do you think Will Ospreay will sign? If we'd have done like 4 options, you done WWE, AEW, re-signs with New Japan, or goes to Impact. Impact would have been dead last.
Yeah.
And it would have been like 1-2%. And it probably would have been mostly AEW. Probably
a smattering WWE.
WWE, I think, would have been in second, but a fairly distant second.
I also think it would be a generous second.
And I think New Japan would have got the same sort of number as WWE had done. If done that poll today, it's a completely different story. Like just off that weekend, it's a completely different story where Will Ospreay signing with TNA seems like much more of a likelihood than it would have done 3 weeks ago.
And to use your FPL again, that's your Haaland buy. That's your premium. You spend a lot of money on that. Bring some eyes to you, then you can showcase the rest of them. Same with Trinity. Imagine Mercedes Moné.
Yeah.
Mercedes Moné joining Trinity for a bit in TNA.
Absolutely. And like you just said 6 months ago, no, absolutely not. Now? Yeah.
I don't know. So the interesting thing about Mercedes is that if I would have seen it happen.
So
when Trinity signed, it definitely felt like Mercedes went off to NJPW and Trinity got a consolation prize. But then actually, when you pay close attention to it and you see what they're doing.
That's what I was about to say. Like to recontextualize what I meant there by like, I wouldn't have seen it happen. I think if it had happened, people have said like, oh man, what a joke.
Right.
She went to Impact. She went to LOL TNA. Yeah. Now it'd be like, oh, she's gone to TNA.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think is genuine. There was someone there being like, guys, you're not answering the Ultra Chats. We were, because all of the Ultra Chats were asking us about TNA. But we do have this one from Hector Rodriguez, who's been a member for 21 months in a row, who said, was Mox in concussion protocol like last year, who apparently is an American rules football player?
It's important to be able to say people's names, so I'm going to try. So Tua Tagovailoa? Feels like
Tagovailoa.
American rules football. American rules football, is that the same thing as American football, or is that different? Like Aussie rules football is different to football? I don't know. Either way, concussion protocol.
Yes, he was.
Right.
And that's why he wasn't cleared. So he was... They thought he was fine. Like the reports came back that he was fine, which is why they advertised him versus Phoenix, but then did another test on the day and then found out need to give him a bit more time, which is why they changed it to Cassidy. So he has been basically been off with a concussion, and concussion is nothing to mess with.
No way.
You take your time, make sure that you get back, and you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the rest of this show, which kicked off with no promos to open up the show. Instead, we just went straight into the action of Danielson versus Andrade El Idolo, who had a great match.
Yes, they did. I don't know if I would quite... When it began, I was like, I don't know if I would call this a dream match. Like, it's certainly a mouth-watering prospect. It's something that I'm very excited to do. But this whole idea of Tony Khan books a dream match, I get that it's wrestling and hyperbole is currency. So, like, the idea that... But then they pulled out and showed us this incredible work.
I'd actually,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think this is only the second time they've had a match.
They referenced the 2018. They clashed on, I assume it was SmackDown.
It was on SmackDown,
yeah.
Yes. They've had like a small TV match. And I remember loving that match when it happened as well. But actually, remind me, I'd almost forgotten that it happened. So when they announced it, I was like, oh, is this the first time they've done this? That is a dream match. I don't think it is, though. If you've done it once before, I don't think you can really clarify it as a dream match.
A dream match is a thing where it's like... Is it really? I don't know. It's what constitutes a dream match for me. I don't know if this was that.
A 16-on-16 Survivor Series match.
Apparently so. I couldn't possibly comment. To the point where you also begin this match with the crowd already chanting, "This is awesome." Now look, that's great energy, so I don't want to poo-poo that in any way. It was just an interesting thing where I was like, am I? And actually, this is to its credit. To be clear, this is a positive review before you all start pitchforking me. I'm like going, is this really a dream match? And then they start wrestling, and I go, this is very, very good.
It is though, isn't it? Yeah. And that's I think with the term with dream match though, is you don't want to run into the ground and make it feel like it's,
special announcement.
Tony Khan has a special announcement.
Tony Khan has a special gift. I can't with that one. Sorry, we'll do it in a bit.
We'll come on to what that special gift might be. But these two, like, it was more Bryan Danielson awesomeness. It was more Andrade awesomeness. And actually, Andrade, they had a bit of a babyface moment at the end of this. They both shook hands.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Because Danielson won with the roll-up, so it's not a decisive win either. And they shook hands after the match, which is when Malachi Black made his return to TV. Lights went down, came back up. Knocked Danielson out with the black mass. Lights go down, and he disappeared again. Very, very cool opener. And I feel like this is the structure of Collision. You have a banging opener and you have a banging closer. You have your match with substance in the middle, and you have squash matches either side. It's a nice, it's an easy show.
He's got his format.
Sorry?
He's got his format. He's not going to deviate from it.
It means that people get wins. It means that people get showcased and stuff. You get moves over. It's a good way. It's a good use of TV time.
Yeah. They were really hyping CMLL in this match. They were really putting CMLL over.
It's because they have got a new partnership with them.
So interesting that they've turned heel on AAA. Because AAA and CMLL do not get on.
I mean, in fairness, AAA have been trying to get out of this AEW deal.
Have they?
Well, I mean, I say that. It feels like Conan's picking up the phone to WWE every chance he can get.
Yeah.
Conan will go out of his way to bury AEW and stuff as much as he can do. I think he just wants to work with WWE.
Right. His mate's there.
Yeah. I mean, they proper screwed AEW over with the whole Dragon Lee thing.
What Dragon Lee?
So Dragon Lee beat FTR to win the tag titles on the same show that he was announcing that he was signing for WWE and was leaving AAA.
Oh.
And it was very much
Spice.
and it was like, that you really dicked them over there.
Right.
Because you basically got
you made their top guys look less.
Yeah, exactly.
Because wins and losses matter.
Yeah. In the world of fake wrestling. But yeah, so they are they put out this big press release.
Yeah.
It spells disaster for the relationship with AAA. Not that I think it is truly the end of the world. If anything, it's actually going to make the New Japan relationship much easier, because New Japan don't work with AAA because they work with CMLL.
Yeah.
So that will make things easier. But yeah, so that's why they're really putting them over.
They were doing it in a big way. Also, so this is the part where I want to talk about Build a little bit, because we had several discussions about Build in the lead up to All In, and I think that especially online, there was this whole business about what constitutes Build, and just be happy with the card and you just get your matches. And I think that this match is a great example of why Build is important in wrestling. And I know that sounds weird for a match that was just put together cold. So let me explain. Because not every build has to be my way you think is special. It doesn't. Not every build needs to be that. The build here is that Bryan Danielson stood in the ring and said, I'm winding down. So every time we see Daniel Bryan, I've been writing lists where he's Daniel Bryan. Bryan Danielson step in a ring opposite someone of quality like Andrade, we as fans go, how is this going to go? Because we know we're on borrowed time. That's Build. That's really it. So you can get a match as cold as this one, but instantly feel an energy to it. And then when the two of those people have insane chemistry like Andrade and Danielson have together, the match elevates, because it would have been good anyway. I always say, anyone can book a 5-star card just with the people on AEW roster, but giving us that extra little flavor of, we don't know if this is the only time we'll ever see this, makes that match interesting.
Absolutely.
And then when they do end up, the pin sequence was super fun, because we don't see that usually end in a pin. Do you know what I mean? We see the pin sequence and pin, and then they come back and start wrestling again. To trade pins off each other and kickouts, and then one of them is able to trap the other one for 3 in the opening match, I thought that was well effective. It was really great. So then when Malachi Black pops up, it's the same effective build part where I'm like, oh, this is the next one. That's going to be fun, isn't it? So that's what I've always meant by build. Just giving us that little extra something that takes a match that you know is going to be good and makes it that like just turns the volume up, turns the heat up a little bit more. I thought this was brilliant.
Darby cut a promo about Nick Wayne and hyped up that this coming Wednesday, Tony Khan is going to give Sting a special gift. And Nigel McGuinness joked that it will be RoboCop again, which really made me laugh.
Yeah. I can't with Tony Khan's special gift. I'm obsessed with that as a sentence.
Here's my prediction.
Yeah.
Here's my big prediction. It's a TNT title match at Full Gear.
Right. Probably.
That's my thinking.
Yeah.
I said on the Dynamite show, I wouldn't be surprised if we have Sting versus Cage for the TNT title, but as the last match at Revolution. You know, I'm going to go out. I want to win the title that represents the broadcaster that's broadcasted my career for so many years. But I wonder if it is just going to be on TV, maybe on TNT. It's you versus Christian next week for the TNT Championship.
Well, especially because, as Darby said it, there was a shot of Sting having a go at Christian. Like, it feels like that was
you put him in the Scorpion on Dynamite.
I just love the idea of him bringing a little special, I've got a gift for you. And it's like, there's the hyping of a special announcement every week. There's some things that I just find silly, right? And it's not a negative, it's not a criticism, it's just like, can we all have a look at what we're doing? A graphic that says Tony Khan has a special gift for Sting is so funny. That is a funny thing.
Dan, if I've learned anything over this weekend, is that you take professional wrestling seriously.
No, if there's anything I've learned over this weekend, it's you don't, because you won't win.
No, I think the comments would disagree with you there, Dan. I think the comments will tell you that if you don't take fantasy booking seriously, then you are an affront to the world of professional wrestling.
I've been saying it for months, Luke. I don't know why I'm just...
Anyway, up next, Skye B Blue had a match, and she beat HollyHood Haley and hit the code blue for the win. Squash match for Skye Blue, putting over this character. Not a great use of your one women's match. But yeah, at least there's character development.
Well, that was a euphemism. Not a great use of your one women's match, because I've done some digging. Because I always do. First of all, gear matters. She's here with this new attitude, but she's wearing Scooby-Doo gear. Go.
The whole point of Scooby-Doo is baddies, or good guys dressing up as baddies.
But she's a baddie dressing up as a good guy.
Yeah, it's an inversion.
All right. I'll let you have that one. I don't agree with you, but I'll let you have it.
I don't believe it either.
But it's just that you went up with such alacrity.
What I think is more likely is that she's got some Scooby-Doo gear and it's Halloween, so she wore her spoopy cosplay gear.
I'm sorry about your cosplay. I'm sorry about your Halloween. Commit. Well, that happened is generous here. This match went 1 minute and 58 seconds, and I timed it, not including Karen.
That's what cage matches.
No, I timed something else. Not including Karen Jarrett and CJ Perry, whose entire characters were addendums to their husbands. Women were on screen for a total of just 5 minutes of a 2-hour broadcast. There's your bloody grand tradition, right? This idea that the grand tradition of AEW is fatal 4-way women's matches. Absolute BS. I never want to hear an excuse about women's wrestling coming from this company ever again. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Outrageous.
Dan, if I may, I just wanted to welcome you to 2019. It's lovely to join you back in 2019. I'm not being funny, bud, but like, we've been saying this for nearly 5 years now.
I'm not going to stop.
Oh well, and it's not going to change. So
we'll go around this dance forever, Tony.
We'll go around this dance forever and ever.
It's just that
and this is what I mean about, like I said this a few weeks back, they ground me down. And like I can't get excited about it either. Like whenever they do a title change, I'm not excited about Shida's run with the belts because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like she had a great match with Emi Sakura on TV. She'll have a great match with Ruby Soho. Cool. Next week, she probably won't be on TV. And then we'll just move on to the next thing. Like, that's what this company does.
It's just irritating because then if we don't talk about it, then there's no heat or no pressure.
But talking about it's never changed anything either. Because I've literally been...
Well, I mean, they've had a sign in the crowd.
And I had a sign in the crowd. What happened? It changed something for a week. And really, did it change anything for a week?
No. Because here we are.
It just changed plans for a week.
Yeah.
Like, I have been sat in this chair in 2 different studios... and 3 different sets.
Yeah.
Week in, week out, making this point, and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
I can go on Twitter and I can make my points and everything. Kate Elizabeth is doing amazing work pointing this out. She's doing great work. She's also doing amazing work at pointing out how Ring of Honor championships are not defended in Ring of Honor.
Right.
Do you know who's never on Ring of Honor? Eddie Kingston. Do you know who's not been on Ring of Honor since winning the 6-man tag titles? The Hung Bucks. Like, it doesn't, because a lot of these things in the company don't matter.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter. Ring of Honor doesn't matter. The women's championship and the women's division doesn't matter in this company. And I can sit here for the next 4 years and say it every week on TV, and nothing will change.
So the only problem, not the only problem, but the addendum to that I have is that when you say Ring of Honor doesn't matter, the people who run this company, as in AEW, say Ring of Honor doesn't matter with the actions that they do. It's just saying Ring of Honor doesn't matter. You know why? Because there are 5 other men's matches on this card. There are all of these other men's championships to be defended. And I recognize as well that Statlander and Willow had a match at Battle of the Belts. I haven't seen Battle of the Belts, so I don't know.
But it was one match of the 4.
Right.
And actually, if you want to sort of about, like, do more with your women's wrestling, watch Ring of Honor, because they actually have, like, loads of women's matches there. And Athena is, like, the greatest character that AEW, like, among, like, the top 10 characters that AEW has at the moment, toiling away in Ring of Honor. Like, that Athena, the work that Athena, Lexi, and Billy are doing in Ring of Honor should be on Dynamite and Collision, because it's so entertaining.
Right. So when, to finish my point, when you say the women's bits don't matter, the women's division doesn't matter, what you're saying is the women don't matter. It's different because that's all they've got, right? So if Ring of Honor doesn't matter, don't worry, you've still got Dynamite and Collision, you've still got AEW, you've still got all of this other stuff. When you say the women's division doesn't matter, you're saying the women don't matter, and that's where I find it not just annoying, not just frustrating, I actually find it egregious and offensive, and I'm going to continue pushing my feminist agenda, and the only reason I call it that is because that's what it was called in the comments. So big old mirror to ourselves. But I mean, they have, to your brilliant point, they have the talent who show off what they're doing in the dark ages of, and a pun intended, kind of that. Use them, give them time. You have 4 hours of show of main program, not including Rampage. Use them.
It's not going to happen.
I know it's not, but I'm going to keep talking about it.
It's not going to happen, and I've done this merry dance enough to know that it's not going to happen. The amount of times people message me being like, "Oh man, this is when the women's division changes." Nope, I had that as a thumbnail in 2019.
Did you?
As genuine as a thumbnail, the women's division's going to change, and it didn't, and it hasn't, and it never will.
Right.
The Guns beat the Outrunners.
what a positive note. But you're so right. But yeah.
Well, this is why I'm ground down by it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sick of having the conversation because there's nothing.
Imagine how the women feel.
Yeah, well, imagine what it's like. Do you know why Jordan Gray stays in Impact Wrestling in TNA? Because it's a much better place for Jordan Gray to go.
Why hasn't Mercedes Moné signed for a pop that she could get at Full Gear?
Because it's better off going to TNA.
Yeah.
Much better off going to TNA. Or
sticking with Stardom.
Or sticking with Stardom, going back to WWE because you will get way more TV time there. And imagine that, going to WWE, they're not doing great by their women's division either.
Nope.
You're way better off going to TNA.
Yeah.
The Guns beat the Outrunners.
You're way better off going to TNA. I'm just thrilled that you get to say that now.
I know, it's great. The Guns won, and then the lights went out, so your second one of the night, and the Devil appeared on the screen, spinning that plate again, and the crowd chanted for MJF, but he did not show up. I like the Guns. I love Jay White.
Do you like the little Devil teases?
Well,
do you have a theory?
It's the second one they've done since the Devil first showed up.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they had, because we said on the Dynamite show, but this is again further proof that they watch this show and then take notes about what to do for the next show.
Except for the women.
Well, yeah, but that's because he doesn't care about that one. Sorry, Tony, it's just you don't, mate. He sat over there.
Yeah, he is with his big pile of cash.
Yeah, he's got a special gift for me later.
Yeah.
It's spoilers. It's more money.
I was going to say it's a copy of Ready Player One. He was really excited to give you something nostalgic, and then you said you hate nostalgia as well.
And I've already read it. And it's very shit sequel. What were you asking me about?
The Devil.
Oh, I've got no theories.
Okay, great.
Me and Tempest did a whole show when they first debuted. My theory was that you could do it as Adam Cole with the Kingdom and a returning Kyle O'Reilly. It could be Bullet Club Gold, just because there was no Juice Robinson in this segment, so you can make the argument it was Juice that was up on the screen, and it's all just one big ruse to fool people into not trusting MJF, but it was actually a setup by Bullet Club Gold all along.
Credit where it's due, though. I love this stuff. Like, I love this kind of mystery reveal.
Who ran over Steve Austin?
I love it. It's Poirot.
Who ran over Roman Reigns?
There you go.
Lexi interviewed Orange Cassidy, and Chris Statlander walked in and used, and I didn't know how to write this in my notes because I don't bench. Chris Statlander uses Lexi as a weights thing to hype up her match for Battle of the Belts.
She did some squats.
Yes, she did some squats.
Yeah.
It was very impressive.
I enjoyed it very much.
Me too. However, the best thing on this show.
Yes, okay, so I apologize that I've had a rant. Let's talk about some because this was a good episode of Collision, and this was part of the reason why I loved it. I can't believe that me being inherently positive about something has become controversial now. Like, now that you've told me that people didn't like it on Twitter, I'm like, oh no.
Not only that, but you're positive about an Eddie Kingston thing as well.
That's a scandal.
It's Jeff Jarrett versus Eddie Kingston in a Memphis street fight. Memphis being the key word here, because this was some Memphis bollocks right here. The gimmick was, if Jeff Jarrett wins, Jay Lethal can get a shot at the Ring of Honor Championship. They even have Dave Brown join commentary. Like Dave Brown, who did commentary for Jeff Jarrett's first match, like way back when and stuff. This was like, and it was just Eddie being beaten up by all of Team TNA, fending off Team TNA, and nearly getting the win, but Team TNA break it up. Then Team TNA beat him up some more. Plunder was used. At one point, ketchup and mustard, not the excellent Mortal Kombat pro players, were being used as weapons.
And it was at this point that Dave Brown says, yep, this is a Memphis street fight.
That's what I mean.
Which is better than I could ever have put it.
This was so Memphis.
Yeah.
Matthew of Botchamania had a really good descriptor of this match, which is, I love Jeff Jarrett's Memphis wrestling.
Right.
I love Eddie Kingston. I don't know that I love Eddie Kingston in Jeff Jarrett Memphis wrestling.
Right.
And I totally get that as a reason. I know that there were some people who were massively upset about this match because it's Jeff Jarrett putting Eddie Kingston in 2023 in a silly bollocks match. But I thought they protected Eddie a hell of a lot in this match. Like, he was beaten by 6 people.
He kicked out of the stroke. I don't mean to say that like the stroke is the
most protected move.
But like, he kicked out of his finish. And yes, it was the celebration thing. But like, I think Eddie looked... It's not Eddie's fault that he lost this. Like, if there were 4 people, one of whom's a giant.
Yeah, and he had 3 moves in him in the end because he had the Satnam Singh chokeslam, the stroke, and the lethal injection. So it was really Jay Lethal that sort of like finished it, which sets up Jay Lethal versus Eddie for the ROH title in a match that will actually be a serious one. But this is what Jeff is here to do. Jeff is here to do the Texas Chainsaw match. He's here to do nonsense, carny nonsense. And you either love it or you hate it. I think it is incredibly silly, and I find it very entertaining. But this is where some people have a pop at me for it. I don't take it seriously.
Right.
This is not serious wrestling. This is silly bollocks wrestling. And I don't love that Eddie Kingston is in that because I love Eddie too much. But I thought that Eddie did great in this match, and I thought they protected Eddie so that he didn't lose, he didn't like get embarrassed in all of the silly bollocks. And I had fun with all of this.
I think the point you're making there about it being like Eddie being the sort of like round peg in the square hole or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
Square peg in the round hole is kind of pertinent.
Sorry, that's been pointed out because we were talking about Kermode and Mayo earlier. It was always pointed out on Kermode and Mayo's show that it's actually quite easy to put a square peg in a round hole because there's a big hole.
Unless the hole is smaller.
Well, yes, but that's not what the phrase is.
That's true. Either way.
It's like the phrase, have your cake and eat it. Or what else am I supposed to do with it?
Look at it nicely.
That's what a cake is for. Sitting on it. That's what hey, look, I'm not one to kink shame.
That's right. And I'm not one to kink shame, but I do think putting Eddie Kingston in this match was a bit of a weird choice. No, I think the reason is that I think probably, and I haven't seen all the discourse, I think probably the reason people aren't pleased with Eddie being in this match and taking the loss is probably because Eddie is A, beloved, and also B, has been on quite the run of his life over the past few months. And I think a lot of people saw him as being elevated to... They want to see him in a world title picture. They want to see him in the big main events of Dynamite. And here he is in the middle of Collision, losing a nonsense smoke and mirrors bollocks match to Jeff Jarrett.
Carney match.
Yeah. So I get that.
I get that.
I get that completely.
Completely get it.
I will say as well, though, in this match, there was the cutter Jay Lethal did off the stage. There was the Eddie did an amazing overhead suplex on Lethal that was it was delicious. It was so good. And yeah, it was nonsense. It was outrageous. I absolutely loved watching it. I do think it's probably fair to say that of all the people to be the opponent in this, Eddie's probably the wrong one.
That's it. It's two worlds colliding that don't quite mesh together.
It's such a weird one though, because in general it was so much fun, and I didn't mind Jarrett getting the win. And hey, following on from that a little bit later on, we got a massive, I don't want to get ahead of the game, but we did get a big promo from Kingston that I think made up for it personally.
And I think this is where some of my disconnect on it comes in, is because what we're doing is setting up quite a serious emotional match between Eddie and Jay, but to get there we went via this.
There was some lettuce involved.
And do you know why we went via this? Because we were in Memphis, and Memphis is a Jarrett hotspot. And so we booked Jarrett on the show, and we're using this. So we had an end point and sort of worked our way backwards. But one of the points we got to was like, that's a weird one to do. But well, we're in Memphis. We've got to do a Memphis street fight with Dave Brown on commentary. So away we go. We're off to the races. So I get that discourse. But as I said, I had fun with it because it was silly Team TNA vibes.
Yeah.
And it was absolute bedlam, as was explained on commentary. Lexi interviewed the Acclaim, and they cut a promo on Fajas for Battle of the Belts. Then we got a really interesting development in the story of Miro and CJ Perry. Because the story up until now has been Miro wants nothing to do with CJ Perry because she's a temptress. Like, imagine how dangerous it would be if she was to manage to get gold. I don't want to unleash that upon the world. CJ Perry, I want to be a manager again. And so they've kind of gone on their separate paths, but every person that CJ is seemingly wants to manage, Miro has attacked. And now we saw that last week with Action Andrade to set up this match here. And during this match, Miro beat the absolute piss out of Action Andrade, and CJ liked it. And I think that's because the idea here is that Perry is subverting Miro. She is almost tricking him into being his manager again. Because this is what she wants. She is looking to she has found a way to unleash the Miro of old, and that is by pretending she wants to manage other people. But the truth of it is, she just wants to manage the unstoppable, I'm going to ride a tank into WrestleMania Miro.
She came back kind of for that purpose. She popped up after the Hobbs match to make the save, but also she kind of said, if I'm not wrong, she said as much. She was like, I want to manage you kind of thing. And Miro was saying, no, you are my temptation. And it's that very Chase thing of I can't have temptations. I've got the one goal. I've got to be redeemed, all of this stuff. And yeah, I think I'm really into the story. I think that as much as I enjoyed the no pun intended action in the ring, and there was some kind of cool things. There was a moment that, and it was almost this idea that, to your point, I'm gonna trampoline off it.
Go for it.
He went for the game over, and Action Andretti powered out of it.
Well, he rolled through.
He rolled through. Yeah. Well, he managed to get a reversal in there. When really, you see him signal, that's probably the end. Almost like CJ being there and the opportunity to be managed by CJ makes you better. And the commentary were really putting over CJ as well. And she managed as champion.
That's it. And she's probably been training, coaching him throughout this week of being here's the areas that you need to focus on. If he's going for this, do this.
So the idea that the presence of CJ makes you better, and Miro is avoiding that temptation, will he ever give in to that temptation? I really like the story.
It's taken a turn that I did not expect, and I'm really, really liking it. And actually, I thought Action Andretti's comeback that he had, that little flurry, was genuinely brilliant. It led to a kick out at one, which I quite enjoyed. Fortunately, there wasn't the crowd reactions to make it.
Crowd.
Well, yeah, there's that. But the small crowd that were there did not get into it. But yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. Fajas cut a promo about the match tonight, and it's more of the Daddy Magic and Daniel Garcia having their tensions and stuff, and they all walk off in different directions. And Cool Hand Ange walks past Ruby Soho, who is about to have her interview time next, and they talk about families falling apart because she's currently in a family that's having some issues with the outcasts. And Cool Hand Ange is having his issues with Fajas. And they basically flirted.
No, there was some tension.
And then off he walked. And then Ruby Soho did her promo about how she's going to, win the title this coming Wednesday. So, really weird. I didn't know this, but they're dating. I think they might actually be married.
Good for them.
So I think that's...
I wondered.
Yeah. So I think it's almost playing off of that. I don't know what it's leading to or anything like that. But yeah, apparently they're at the very least seeing each other. So
I'll find out.
Maybe that's going to be starting an on-screen partnership or relationship between the two of them. But it really was just like okay. That was an interesting little direction that I also did not see coming.
Oh, she doesn't have a personal life section on Wikipedia, so I can't help.
All right, okay.
In the chat.
Ruby Soho boyfriend.
Let me tell you, Googling that generally doesn't help. Because according to various people, I had several relationships that just... My net worth is like £5 million. Do you know that?
Is it really?
No. But according to the internet, it is.
Problem is, the live chat are probably telling us. But I'm on a different tab now.
Your
battery's running low.
Yeah. What are we going to do? How will we end the poll?
Okay. Let's have a look.
I don't think it matters. So I'm just gonna commit to either way. Their interaction was kind of cool. I was intrigued in the idea that it might end up with a partnership, or even just if it was just a little bit of like a hey, we both get what this is kind of thing, and a little wink and a nudge. I liked it very much. I didn't love that she just sort of said, "I'm going to lay down a gauntlet," and I was like, "What? What do you mean? What does that mean? And what does it mean?"
It's a wrestling thing.
But she's not laying down a gauntlet. She's challenging for a title. She's not laying down any gauntlet. She's already got that.
That's the gauntlet that's being laid down.
Stop it.
I'm just saying, Dan, there are stock wrestling promos.
I know!
And that is one of them. We can dissect all wrestling promos.
But that's not what a gauntlet is!
No one... Well, yeah. She's laying down, like, the fist. And like...
That's only one type of gauntlet.
Well, yeah, but that's the gauntlet she's laying down.
I don't know.
She's not laying down a 7-match gauntlet.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the match she's going to have is going to be really good, and it's going to take 6 minutes. So
yeah, and it'll
most of it will be in the adverts,
and it will lead to nothing.
Yeah,
we're back to where we started. I'll lay down the gauntlet for that.
You're going to slowly break me,
Dan. It took me a while. It took me a while to reach this point.
Put my feminist agenda.
You will get there too. I promise you will get there too.
I don't know that I will.
This is where we had Eddie cutting his absolutely awesome promo.
I mean, I hated it because I hate Eddie Kingston, but like it was absolutely fantastic.
We also had a promo for LFI in this as well. But man, Eddie's promo, so great. Eddie is the greatest promo in AEW. He's the greatest promo in all of pro wrestling, not named Will Ospreay. He's just fabulous.
Pull a string, let him go.
Because he's real. This is a man, like, when people talk about unscripted promos, it's Eddie Kingston right there. Eddie Kingston is unscripted promos. He just speaks from the heart. He just speaks with emotion. He speaks with passion. He speaks with realism. This is real to him, damn it. And I love that. That's why Eddie's the best.
It was great. It was a great promo.
So good.
Yeah.
Slightly ruined by the one behind him corpsing, but
she did a little bit. She wasn't taking it seriously.
Send for the man. And then the last match we get to talk about is FTR versus Bad That Brown and Darian Bengston. Yeah. But the match didn't actually happen because Malachi Black came down and beat them up, and this time also was flanked by Matthews and King, and they beat them down. That was about it. Yeah, and then it was the main event of Blackpool Combat Club and Ricky Starks and Wheeler Yuta, who had a very, very good match, and then a fun finish.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed this episode of Collision.
I did too. I thought it was really effective. Bar my one criticism, I thought like the as I said, it was the laying things out. Even within that one criticism, I liked that there was a continuation of the Sky Blue thing. She looked dominant. I like it when you're just carrying on, and there was a cohesion to it that I thought was really great.
Right, well, we are going to shout out some of our Patreon pledge hammers, but wait, we're actually not. Because we've thanked them all already. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank our moderators one more time, and that is Andy,
Brandon,
CJ,
Gary,
Ian,
James,
Jay,
John,
Les,
and Rob.
And of course, as always, Mod Mother Jenna. So thank you all so much. We love each and every single one of you. And hey, do you know who else we love? Is all of you. And do you know how much we love all of you? We want to see you live on November 4th.
Watch WWE Crown Jewel 2023 alongside Luke Owen, Ollie Davis, Tempest, Dan Layton from WrestleTalk, and over 100 other wrestling fans, along with a live version of our board game series, No Holds Barred. We'll be raising money for charity and doing our live reactions to Crown Jewel from the venue, which means you'll have the chance to be on camera and be part of the WrestleTalk live experience. This is the best way to watch wrestling pay-per-views, and tickets are available now. Get your tickets today, and we will see you there to be part of moments like this.
Jay has the spot, has got it in! 1, 2, 3! Jay got it! Jay did it! Jay did it! Jay beat Roman! Jay beat Roman! Jay beat Roman! Oh my god!
We are going to be live at the Long Arm Pub and Brewery on November 4th to see WWE Crown Jewel live with a live edition of No Holds Barred as well. Tickets are going fast, but they are available in the link in the video description down below and being posted by our wonderful moderating team. And you are going to witness not just Crown Jewel, not just LA Knight versus Roman Reigns for the Blue Universal Championship. You are going to see Luke Owen, DAD, dethrone the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton, and reclaim my Jam That Championship.
You can take my fantasy booking, but you'll never take my championship. I'm gonna paint half my face red.
Yeah,
like Braveheart, but red for Jam.
No. People said that I didn't take fantasy booking warfare seriously. I don't know where they got that idea from.
Couldn't possibly be
clearly
the NWO Nexus.
Clearly, with the NWO Nexus, I was taking fantasy booking warfare very, very seriously. So yeah, people thought I wasn't taking that seriously. I'm taking this seriously, Dan.
It's because it matters.
This matters.
Yeah,
I'm winning back my title.
No, you aren't.
See you on the 4th.
It's my first live defense.
I'll see you on the 4th. Let's get into the rest of your Stark remarks.
Your Stark remarks.
Kicking things off with the Derpy of Derps said, I think if TNA really want to make a statement and show what makes them unique to the modern audience, Mercedes would be a great sign. Grabs a mainstream star to draw in the WWE fans and get a bigger showcase on the Knockouts division. Plus, if you are touring,
yep,
you are going to need some names.
You
need some names to
if you want to see bigger
tickets.
venues. CM Punk. They were talking about, there was a conversation about that.
Apparently they've already offered him a contract.
There you go.
OGP, yeah, you know me, said, I love Luke's 6-month Who Done It, and then the perfect person would be a Swerve too. Faction has the numbers, and the attack stopped after his TNT title match got announced, and now he's focused on Paige. Might be a stretch, but Luke said his name right after it. Yeah, I think I must. Did I say Swerve?
That's a holdover from something that was already. I think that might be from your Dynamite chat.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, maybe I did say Swerve.
Maybe you did.
I've been quite happy with if I did say Swerve, and I'm proven right. Golden Knights fan 84 says, "Hey Luke and Prof, the more I watch Collision, the more Jay White doesn't land with me. He's bland, boring, and quite frankly, as soon as Bullet Club Gold come on screen, they're an instant skip/mute up there with Team TNA, just a bunch of jobbers."
So interesting, because I feel like I also feel that I'm a little bit like, whenever Bullet Club Gold show up. But then Jay White, for me, is the one who makes me go, no, but you're really good. Like, I don't, that's not, I mean, disrespect Bullet Club Gold, because sometimes when they're used effectively, they're very good. But Jay White showing up in that match at All In, or you know, his singles matches and things like that, have always pulled me back into what I otherwise would fast forward, or you know, if I wasn't here to watch the whole show. So interesting. I also don't love that he's holding the championship at the moment. I know that it's a part of a story. For me, a heel shouldn't. If you've got the belt, it takes away from the moment where we see him hold the belt for the first time, because he's been holding it for weeks.
He's probably not going to.
Do you think never?
Well, no, not at this point here.
Right.
No, like this will be, you know, either that'll be a different era.
Oh,
of
I
Jay
just
White.
mean in the future.
In the future. Oh, I think there'll probably enough time will pass that I'll think of this. But so I don't think I agree fully with that. But I mean, I think Jay White's great, and I've been really loving Jay White. But it's amazing actually, like how often we are getting chats in. People are like, I don't get Jay White.
Interesting.
And I made this joke with Ollie, but I feel that people who are just coming to Jay White now are where we were with Jay White after in 2019 when Omega left New Japan,
And he stepped up.
And Gator, well, I say he stepped up. Gator was like, we need a new Kenny Omega. And it's you, kid. You're going to beat Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. And then it's going to be you versus Okada at headlining Madison Square Garden. And Jay White was great, but he was not like that guy yet. And then he spent the next year, 2 years, 3 years becoming the best on the planet and was being so good and proving a lot of us wrong, myself included, absolutely proving us wrong. And now it feels like he's almost starting again in AEW, where he's like just doing the same shtick. Not like the same shtick, but it's like people coming and be like, I don't get the hype.
Right.
And then he just like, I think he's proving, for me, like, he just keeps having banger matches. He's doing great promo work. He's doing really good character work. I think the Bullet Club Gold are a fun act. I think he's killing it right now. But it is fascinating to me that I feel like I'm in the minority on this. Or like, me, you, and Holly, and the rest of us feel
that's taking me by surprise.
We're sort of in the minority on this. We very rarely get people chatting and be like, man, Jay's awesome.
Yeah.
We only ever get chats people like, don't get it.
That's really interesting.
Danny, who's been a member for 26 months in a row, says, afternoon, lads. Good to see Floyd again. Outrunners and Turbo Jack and Jake versus Bullet Club Gold must be inevitable at this point. Book it, Tony, ya coward. Joe Park says, in regards to the Devil Mask, it should keep happening to MJF's opponents, pissing them off and making them more vicious, but Max keeps getting through until they finally come in to help after he's alone and worn down. The reveal is that it's Swerve who easily can take down Max. I don't like the idea of it being Swerve, though. That Dylan guy said, if you want great women's wrestling that is taken seriously compared to main roster, WWE, AEW, watch NXT, because NXT cares about their women's division, or from what I've heard, Impact is a great women's wrestling. Looking good, lads.
That's a good shout. NXT does is very committed to its women's division. I think the tricky thing is that it's developmental. I know it's not treated that way. It's being treated and framed as more of a big show. There's still fresh stars coming out there. It's when you've got the big shows with the big talent who are ready, not being given the opportunity. I think that's where you step into Impact.
Matt here says, I get Dan's point on women's wrestling, but Tony just doesn't care. He books it because he has to, not because he wants to. Thunder Rosa was AEW Women's Champion last year for 6 months and barely appeared on TV. When she vindicated the belts, they didn't do the angle online. They didn't do the angle online and not on TV. They did do it on TV. She didn't get to cut a promo about it. She did. It just happened. It was never going to change. I still think we should criticize them. But to me, the way they handled Rosa as champion really showed me that TK doesn't care. When the women started main eventing TV episodes, it felt like damage control on AEW after Lufisto's comments were made. That I would also disagree with. Shauna even admitted that a lot of AEW roster agreed with her comments. That was true. I want change, but All In was their biggest show, and there were 11 matches and only one women's match. When Tony was asked about only having one women's match on future AEW shows, his answer was promoting Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, and All Out. AEW is a lot of good, but the women's division ain't one of them.
Just very quickly to the point of, but Tony doesn't care, because I know that's what you said a lot, and what we've all come to see in agreement. That's not good enough for me. And that's not. Tony just doesn't care. Well, he should care. It's his responsibility to care. Do the rest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Vince didn't care. And
I would say the same to Vince. I want that to be clear. This is not an anti-TK.
My point was going to be like, Vince didn't care, and to the point, I don't think he cared until Ronda Rousey came in, and that was why we just didn't get it on the product. But in him, it's like, well, I'm making money. Like, people are attending the shows and stuff. I'm selling tickets. I'm selling merchandise. Like, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is. Well, they don't get over. It's because you don't give them enough TV time.
Yeah,
of course they're not going to get over. Yeah. But again, this is what I mean. Like, I keep.
It's fair. It's fair.
I'm going to apologize now to Edison Vinny, but fucking banging my head against the wall for the last 4 years, repeating myself over and again. And like what Matt just did there in 4 different Ultra Chats was what I said earlier in the show, because we've all been saying the same thing over and over again, and I can't keep banging my head against the wall anymore.
Yeah.
David here says, a few weeks late with this, not always able to listen live on a Monday, but Luke previously said that Dunkzilla has the worst haircut in wrestling. He doesn't have the worst haircut of all people, though. Even people called Mark Davis. Google the Las Vegas Raiders owner. Now, apparently, this has been posted into our moderators thread. Yeah, that's not a very good haircut.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of choices being made. There's the length in the back. There's the shortness of the fringe. There are have you ever seen a picture of Joel Glazer?
No.
Joel Glazer, who owns the. I don't like to be mean to people. He lied. But Joel Glazer is the owner of Manchester United and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And oh no, that's Joel. Joel's fine. Avram Glazer is the one I'm talking about. That's his brother. There comes a point where I go, what are you trying to achieve? Like, what are you... What are you doing?
Like, I get that. It's just, it's got a little bit of hair at the back there. It's gone bald on top.
It's just clinging.
That's kind of what I would look like if I grew my hair out.
No, but then it's the rat tail bit of it. And then he styles it with, like, pomade, and it's just not the one, mate. Because if he just shaved his head, he'd look fine.
Is he a billionaire?
He's a knobhead. And yes, he's a billionaire.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Knobhead.
If you're a billionaire, you just do whatever you want.
I know, yeah, like bleed my club dry.
The Deputy Dubs also adds in, have another $5 here because I've just realised that Luke Owner started Halloween early with a great Mr. Rogers costume. And Spencer Trainer has been a member for 5 months in a row, says, hello boys, I'm ecstatic to see House of Black back. Also, I really hope the Devil Mask is Swerve. And everyone's going on the Swerve train at the moment. I think it's a great step for him towards the title.
Hadn't even entered my thought.
Yeah. My laptop has died, as you pointed out earlier, so I'm going to have to walk across to the other machine to end the poll. So
while you do that, I'll complain about the Glazers, who said a year ago that they were considering options to potentially sell the club or at least look for new investments, and it's been a year and there's been precisely zero forward movement on that. And if that ain't the story of the Glazers overall, meanwhile, I've run out of. I could. Need you to bounce a little bit more, mate. Great. What about those weathers, eh? The weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful.
Oh, mate, the weather on Saturday when I was at the beer festival.
Was it nice?
It was all over the show.
I was playing D&D all weekend, so I was inside. I didn't notice any of the weather. We had a thingy. Oh, go on.
Thumbs up. 79%.
Oh, okay, they're decent. I think it was a good show. I think it was a thumbs up show. 11
thumbs in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else.
Only 11 thumbs.
Yeah, only 11 thumbs in the middle. 11% thumbs in the middle. But yeah, 79% show overall.
Decent.
It's not as high as some Collision episodes that we have done, but still not a terrible number for it to score.
Yeah.
But we'll be back tomorrow reviewing Monday Night Raw. It's been advertised for us.
I believe the main event is going to be Jey Uso versus Damian Priest.
Oh, yeah. Yep, Jey Uso versus Damian Priest. We've also got Becky versus Indy Hartwell.
Oh, hello.
Logan Paul is on the show. Oh, and Sammy versus Drew.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah. So, pretty stacked episode of Monday Night Raw, which I'm quite excited about.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be reviewing that tomorrow here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Luke Owen, DAD. Please do press the subscribe button and give us a little thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. And I've been joined by the wonderful and always handsome Dan Layton, the truth Dan Layton, the Professor Dan Layton,
Laurie Blake on Wednesday.
Who is going to... Oh, that's right. It's Wednesday Night War this week. Man,
I want to remind you.
You are going to be on a hell of a losing streak because you're fancy booking Warfare, Wednesday Night Wars, then you're going to lose your championship.
How dare you.
What a terrible few weeks for Dan Layton.
This is the beginning of my WrestleMania 30 arc. This is the very beginning. At some point.
I had the worst year in my professional life.
The Authority are going to screw me over.
That is all happening this week here on WrestleTalk and on partsFUNknown and all our other great channels. So we'll see you then. I've been Luke and DAD. That has been Dan Layton. See you tomorrow. Jam that jam.